Honest J. Nowak. Coming at you live. Alright. A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Honest J. Nowak Graphix. And let me tell you, a marathoning session seems to be the best way to go here, so we're probably just going to do that pretty much. But I will go as far to say that this has certainly been quite an impressive time for me to continue all my work here relating to HJN and all that good stuff. To be able to continue on with all this is going to be rather helpful, especially for what I'll have in the future. But there's still a lot of graphics related stuff that I'll want to take care of first. So let's go ahead and start off with Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. Released in early 2019 as a one-on-one tournament fighter sort of game out there, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is probably by far the best known example of a modern day fighting game. A fighting game that happens to take on the likes of Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, Virtua Fighter, and many others out there. One-on-one tournament fighter games were huge in the 1990s. And even to this day, we still happen to get a bunch of them on the PS4. Tekken 7, Virtua Fighter 5, Ultimate Showdown. This, and who could ever forget, Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11, along with Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath. Then you have Street Fighter 5, Champion Edition. So, I've really had a lot of experience with one-on-one fighting games of all sorts. This is probably by far the greatest possible example in the world. And I will tell you why. This is one of several titles that I downloaded last year on PlayStation Now after I bought a $10 one-month-long voucher for PlayStation Now activation. I basically bought an activation fee of $10 for one whole month. And in that time span, I basically played through several games out there that I downloaded from PlayStation Now. Resident Evil 7, Wolfenstein the New Colossus, Hello Neighbor, Hitman 2, and this, pretty much. Just as a few examples, then I went ahead and downloaded just for the heck of it. If you've seen the emergency stockpile, which happened earlier this year, then you would have seen several episodes of Power Rangers Battle for the Grid right then and there, pretty much. So I will go as far to say that this has been one of several titles that I played for the emergency stockpile, a long 600 plus episode series that has basically been quite a huge adventure. It was also a way for me to introduce a bunch of different titles out there, beginning with Need for Speed Payback, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Transformers Battlegrounds, Metal Gear Solid 5, and several others pretty much. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid was definitely one of those. A one-on-one fighting match that happens between different Power Rangers. Of course, you all remember from all the way back in the first earlier days, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in the early 1990s, which of course was famous because of a few things. It utilized stock footage from a long-running series known as Super Sentai, a Japanese-style series that includes giant fighting robots and a lot of actual actors wearing costumes of all sorts, fighting against other people wearing costumes. This same old tradition brought onto American audiences, and it practically caught and spread like wildfire. So the thing is, Power Rangers became absolutely amazing at a cultural level. I tell you, American audiences were so thrilled by the action that Power Rangers gave us in the 1990s that there were so many things relying on it. There were comics, video games, movies, the original show, and so much more. I mean, just within the first decade alone, you could really find a lot of stuff there. Of course, I certainly was a pretty big viewer of most Power Rangers related media growing up. The first ever Power Rangers I got to know of was Power Rangers Mystic Force, which at the time in 2006 was brand new. That series was phenomenal, being a Power Rangers series that utilized mythology. Who would have thought that would have been such an impressive turnout? But then, of course, I eventually got around to knowing others, like Dino Force, SPD, and eventually I got to see what started it all, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in the early to mid-90s. Because it included both the show as well as a full-length feature film, which I've gotten around to seeing on both occasions, so I've already gotten well familiar with the Power Rangers series as it is. And I pretty much stopped, in a way, after I got to know about a lot of other franchises out there, like Godzilla, Ultraman, Gundam, and so much others out there, pretty much. Eventually, though, when it comes to Power Rangers games, I found this. February 2019, at the same time there was also a game called Jump Force, which was related to the 50-year anniversary of the famous Jump Force manga series. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid pretty much caught my eye, being a one-on-one fighting game made for the PlayStation 4. And being the most recent game that we got so far, well, I don't really know if it's the most recent game that we'll ever have. I mean, we'll probably have something new down the line, but in terms of Power Rangers related games, this one, like, I don't know what to say anymore. When I first boot up the game, an unbelievable way of recreating the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song, it was just right there. They went ahead and remade the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song from the 90s for this game. And probably what's even better, it's not just the unbelievably amazing rock and roll guitar riffs that you hear in the soundtrack, but it's also the rather impressive story. This game actually does, in fact, go as far as to becoming the biggest crossover that we probably have ever seen in Japanese, American related media. This is essentially a combination of every single type of Power Rangers related storyline and every sort of Power Rangers franchise as a whole. For every single show that's basically come upon us, from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to SPD to Mystic Force to In Space to Dino Force and so many others pretty much. I mean, I've kind of lost track throughout the 2010s because I pretty much grew up out of that stuff. But to play a Power Rangers video game on the PlayStation 4 twice, I'd say that was more than worth it. Let me just tell you first off, the story itself revolves around the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, including the leader, Jason Lee Scott, going on against some of the others for training purposes, until eventually the command center ends up in ruins. And there are a lot of occasions where these Rangers end up getting transported to different dimensions, which of course relate to the different canons that have been established in Power Rangers history. And all these different dimensions do in fact intertwine with one another, because we do get to see different Power Rangers fighting each other from all these different universes that have now come face to face against one another like we've never seen before. So this game is like the ultimate crossover in a way. And we've seen a lot of super big gigantic crossovers of all sorts. I mean, we've got Kingdom Hearts, which is a combination of the entire universe of Walt Disney mixed together with the amazing franchise by Square Enix known as Final Fantasy. And then, as I recall, there was a series with a VHS in 1996 where there were a bunch of different franchises put together. From the Magic School Bus and Barney the Dinosaur to Thomas the Tank Engine to Madeline and Curious George. So I tell you, these big, super gigantic crossovers that happen, these are the things that I really like to get to know about. Maybe there should be a time where I should probably go and dig up every potential franchise, pay $1 trillion in royalty fees to avoid breaking any kind of copyright law ever known, to create the world's largest crossover film ever, pretty much. But to me, that's pretty much already been done. And you want to guess exactly what I'm talking about? Well, I'm of course talking about the movie Ready Player One. Yeah, this tends to be like the ultimate super gigantic crossover film that we've got so far. But the truth is, it doesn't necessarily contain every single franchise known to humankind, but it still has a huge plethora of franchises out there, way more than anything else we've ever seen. I suppose that these filmmakers paid so much money in royalty fees, spared zero expenses, just to make this film an unbelievable masterpiece of 2018. So, at the end of the day, I can pretty much say that Power Rangers Battle for the Grid might as well just be the biggest Power Rangers crossover that we've gotten in history, and not only being an amazing one-on-one fighting game, but also being just a great game entirely. Impressive soundtrack, amazing character arcs, nice combat, responsive controls, and rather appealing challenges. Who would have thought that all that would come together in such a blender that would probably create the tastiest known smoothie relating to gaming? Even I had no idea that they could make something so darn good. I consider this to be the best Power Rangers game yet. Literally. And it's all for these reasons, pretty much. There might even be more, but this is one of several examples that I've unfortunately had to dish out before I had a chance to finish it, because, let's face it, there's a ton of games that I pretty much have played so far this year. But I'm going to be retiring from all that by the end of the year, possibly as a resolution for next year. And hopefully, there will be so much more that takes place next year. So at this point in time, let it be known that this is quite an amazing turn of events that I've gotten so far. But yet there's still a lot of other games I will have to talk about before I consider all this to be over. But if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.